Hello, everybody. My name is Philip Lehl. I'm the artistic director of Fourth Wall Theater Company. Welcome to Beyond the Fourth Wall. I'm here with James Black, the director of Gloria, which is currently on stage at Fourth Wall. And hi, James. How are you?
Hi, Philip. How you doing?
Never been a lovely day here in Houston.
Yeah.
That's going to come in handy because I'm doing other interviews at a different time of the day, so the light's going to change to like over here.
Uh-oh.
Weird.
I
Anyway.
only work in this light.
You're smart. You understand. Yeah. So I thought we'd start with talking a little bit about how you came to be who you are in Houston today. I know you're a Houston kid who made good, and but I don't know how you started your. I know you went to Sam Houston. I'm correct about that, right?
I did a little bit of time at Sam Houston, yeah, about a year and a half.
Okay.
I started the typical route of high school musicals.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. My first musical was Dwight Babcock in Maine. Then I went on to excel as Judd Fry in Oklahoma my senior year.
Yeah, I can see that. That would be excellent.
And then one of the teachers there at the school suggested that I audition for a scholarship at Sam Houston State University, which I got. I think it was all of $125. I lasted about a year and a half at Sam Houston, became a pioneer in the slacker movement, and wound up with a couple of friends from college working at the Texas Renaissance Festival, doing 90-minute productions of Hamlet and Henry V and Taming of the Shrew. They'd be divided into 3 parts. We do 30 minutes a section. So that's kind of how I got started. I went from the Renaissance Festival to the Houston Shakespeare Festival, did about 4 or 5 seasons with them. And then from there, it was on to Main Street Theater and Stages and Chocolate Bayou. And then I auditioned for the Alley in 1987, and I was there through 2018.
Yeah, and are still represented there with plays like American that you just directed. So
just finished that.
Wow, I had no idea you were, that Rick Linklater just missed you, and if only. And
I knew those bars well.
And that the Renaissance Fair, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then Main Street was really well. So Houston Shakespeare Festival was a when I did it, it was a pro-am type thing where there were several professional contracts and then a lot of students. Was that how it was?
Same thing. It was the same thing. Yeah.
And Sydney,
it was Charles Crone was one of the directors. Charles Crone would direct one play, and Dr. Berger would direct the other play. That's where I met Charles. Yeah. Do
you remember what your first one was?
The very first one was Camillo in The Winter's Tale.
Oh yeah.
For Charles Crone. And then a smaller role, one of the I can't remember the name of the character now in Comedy of Errors for Sydney.
Yeah.
But that was like in 82 or 83, I believe.
I was graduating from high school. Well, and then you did like several years at Main Street and Stages and Chocolate.
I did a couple of years at Main Street and Stages, and Chocolate Bayou.
And how did the just sort of for young actors, how did the audition at the Alley come about in those days?
I was young and fearless. And so I took a handful of photocopied reviews and a headshot that I made myself with a Polaroid in front of the steps at home. And I went and knocked on the door and said, I'd like to audition for you. I can't fathom myself doing that now. I can't believe that I'm the same guy that did that in 1987.
Who answered the door?
Pat Brown, George Anderson. Yeah.
Names that some people, around town might not even know. Yeah. Wow. That's so great. So, you will probably remember that when I arrived in the Houston area, I'd worked with a guy named Philip Kerr, who was in he was in the first show that Greg Boyd directed at the Alley, and he wrote a nice note to Greg. And so I found myself in a room with Greg and you.
I was in that show with Philip.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Much Ado, or no?
Measure for Measure.
Yeah.
That was the show, believe it or not, that was the show that Sir Peter Hall saw when he was directing an opera next door. And then he went to Vanessa Redgrave and said, I saw this great little theater down in Texas. If you guys, she was running her own theater company with her brother Corin. He said, I saw this great little theater down in Texas. They're doing exciting work. If you want to hook up with him, you should give him a call. And that's where that relationship started with Vanessa Redgrave that took me all the way to London and Not About Nightingales.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that too. So you were in this play, Not About Nightingales by Tennessee Williams. That was it it had been lost? Tell us about that.
It hadn't been lost. It had been put in his paperwork, in his papers in UT. And Vanessa Redgrave, through Peter Hall, had brought her acting company to the Alley. We did a production of Antony and Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. And she was talking to Greg Boyd and said, I have this idea about she had been rehearsing a production of Orpheus Descending that was going to go into performance after she finished at the Alley. And while doing research with his archives at UT, she came across Not About Nightingales, this unproduced play, prison drama that he wrote in the early 30s, that was submitted to a playwriting contest, was turned down. It was actually the first play he signed his name Tennessee to. So it sat in a shelf for, in a box for 60 years. And then lo and behold, we wind up doing a joint production with Vanessa's company, and they brought in Trevor Nunn and the Royal National Theater, and it was amazing balls.
And where did you first perform that play? In London or here? Or
yeah, it was first performed in London at the Royal National Theater, the 𝗕𝗄𝗄. Yeah.
And then?
By Trevor Nunn.
And then where?
And then it came to Houston for about a month. And then about 6 or 8 months after that, it went to Broadway, went to Circle in the Square.
So that's a dream come true, kind of.
Oh, God, yeah.
An amazing year in your life. And you played a very prominent role, I know, and got good notices. And
it was a great role. It was one of the old name above the title.
Was that a chance for you to move to New York and start a career there that you just decided you didn't want to do? Or what was that? What was that?
I had gotten some feedback from people when I was up there, but I had already felt myself getting pigeonholed in a certain type of role. And the great thing at the Alley is that we were doing all kinds of parts and all kinds of shows and all different styles. And I didn't want to lose that. And also, having seen the theater in London, which had mythical connotations to a young boy, and then seeing the theater in New York and realizing the theater that we were doing down here was just as valid, there was no reason to leave home.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you ended up playing hundreds of roles at the Alley.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right about that? Did you do over 100 plays at the Alley?
I think 150, altogether.
What actor gets to do 150 plays? Well,
no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. And never leave home.
And never leave home. Oh, that's so good, James. Well, thanks for that. As I've been here for 2 decades now, I realize that young people come into the theater and they have some interest in what has happened before, but mostly it's about what's happening to them now. And we don't,
as it should be.
Well, yeah, but sometimes it's really good to hear what actually did happen.
Who I used to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what we stand on, where a theater like Fourth Wall comes from is out of all that. You guys started that, and we get to reap the benefits. So, pretty
good point. Good point.
Speaking of Fourth Wall, we're doing a play called Gloria by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins, which is on stage now. Unless you're watching this in 2035 for some reason, which I guess is possible. It's a wonderful production, and you directed it. I'm wondering, I remember sitting in a production meeting early on and Kevin Rigdon, who designed the set and lights, said to me, he said, well, Philip, when you picked this play, did you have an idea of how it would work in the space? And I said, no, Kevin, my idea was that I would hire James Black and Kevin Rigdon and get them to figure out how it worked in the space.
You're the one.
Yeah, I'll get good people to figure it out. I don't know. I like the play. You figure it out. And yeah. So what did you guys? What were your first thoughts about how this play would work in a 3-sided 100-seat theater?
Well, you can't go wrong when you've got Rigdon at your side. So I know I was in good hands there. I knew the play would fit in that space. I love that space. I had been there several times over the last few years, and I just really love the dynamics and the acoustic and the feeling of that room. And I knew that show would fit really well, that having those cubicles in that close proximity to the audience would feel, it'd be environmental. They'd feel the anxiety, they'd feel the desperation and the ambition and the terror that is office life. So it was about getting that immediate experience with the audience.
Yeah, and I think you guys accomplished that in an amazing way. I remember the first conversation, there was a talk about sliding panels, and that came to pass, and they work. They're so simple and yet elegant and beautiful in their way, and they take light beautifully, and it just pays off kind of wonderfully.
You just slide them into another position and you're in a new location.
Yeah, exactly. Light it a little bit differently and boom. Yeah, I think that kind of ingenuity is what we rely on at Fourth Wall, because we don't have a ton of money to spend on sets or costumes or lighting. And so getting good brains in there to figure out simple, elegant solutions is really important. Is there anything that surprised you about your cast or the play, something that you didn't see coming?
I thought when I first read it and when I first started working on it, that it was the most traditional play that he had written, that it was a kind of a conventional play. But the more I worked on it, the more I came to realize that it's 3 very distinctive scenes. That first scene being, a satire of office politics and, ambitious millennials that quickly morphs into something kind of extraordinary.
Yeah.
The second act, you've got these 2 kind of duets that are devastating in their humanity, but at the same time take a reversal at the end. And then you have this third act, which is almost, that takes the themes of the first 2 scenes and combines them into this almost farcical type of presentation. It's just it's extraordinary collection of styles that he's poured into this thing.
Yeah, and I think you all found that, using the set that we had just talked about and just very simple lighting have given each of those a significantly different feel. And obviously the writing takes most of the brunt and the acting, but I congratulate you on that. I did not notice that in any way when I read the play, but to see it the other night several times, I've just been kind of gobsmacked at how it does move to these 3 different places. So it's not a traditional play anymore. It's a very modern, almost experimental play.
Yeah.
Have you seen other plays by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins?
No, I've always wanted to. I know he wrote Octoroon, which is supposed to be amazing, and what's the other one? Appropriate.
He wrote a play called Everybody, which is a take on
Everybody,
Man.
Where the actors all play half a dozen different roles. You never know what role you're playing on any given night.
Yeah, everybody starts with a lottery, and there are 6 actors. There's like 10 or 12 actors in the play, but 6 of them take a lottery number, and that determines who they're going to play on that night. So there are 6 roles that each of those actors need to know in their entirety, and they're not small. So when I saw the play in New York, I noticed that everyone in that part of the cast was young.
I tell you what, that Branden can write a hook to get you into a show. I mean, isn't appropriate the one where the kid comes downstairs to the dinner party with a KKK mask or hood that he found in the attic?
I believe that's right. I haven't actually read that. I've seen or read all of those other ones that we mentioned, and he has some other plays too. One about a woman who's in a coma in Germany. He's just so inventive, and he never seems to go the same place twice.
Right.
I'm just delighted that we are the first theater to do a play of his in Houston, which is surprising to me. Actually, Rec Room
they were going to do,
Rec Room had appropriate on their schedule when COVID hit. So maybe that's not fair. They sort of got there first, and as if it really matters. But he's a playwright who I think needs to be done more and more. I just think he's magnificent. James, what are you doing next?
In a couple of days, I go into rehearsal for a play at AD Players called Apollo 8 by Jamie McGann, the new artistic director. It's a beautiful little play about the Apollo 8 mission and how it brought the world together during difficult times in 1968. So a very appropriate, timely piece of play.
So I know because I was 5 in 1969 when Apollo 11 landed on the moon, and it was maybe one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah. Period.
That Apollo 8 was a mission that did not actually land on the moon. Did it?
They went around the moon they went to the dark side of the moon for the very first time. They orbited.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful. Well, so, if you're seeing this in sort of real time, get a ticket to AD Players' production of Apollo 8. As James says, it's by a guy named Jamie McGann, who, when he was commissioned to write this piece, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But at that time, he was just a guy with
he was running in the theater at HBU, wasn't he?
That's right. And now he's going to step in the next year or so. He'll transition into becoming the new I guess, leader of AD Players. Although Kevin Dean, I know, will still be
on board. Yeah.
So James, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask about?
No, I think you touched on everything.
I'm not quite done. I feel like I just let you off the hook and you could go back to your life, but I'm not done. I want to real quick. You've assembled a group of 6 actors doing Gloria, and for my money, they're giving as good a performance as I've ever seen them give. And some of them I've seen a lot. Some of them I haven't seen much. But I wanted to congratulate you on that, and I just wanted to just have you say, tell us a little bit about how we found those actors.
Well, I mean, I always think that your first step when you're directing a show is to cast people get as many people as you're familiar with in the company as possible. And that's what I did from day one. I had some very distinctive ideas of what I wanted to do with certain characters, and I went with them, very early. And then we just did some open auditions, some video auditions in the age of COVID, and put them to work.
And we had to look hard to find a couple of people, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We lost several.
Yeah, and or just didn't know. We didn't know some people, and we had to really open ourselves up to seeing some people that were unknown quantities to us. And
I was adamant about it being local because I fly the local flag. I'm a product of the local scene. And so I want to do everything I can to make sure that pipeline stays open and flowing.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I can't imagine casting it any better than we have.
No, I can't either.
There's no restrictions or no shortcomings.
Right. And you've worked in London. You've worked in New York. I've worked in New York. We know what we're talking about.
Exactly.
All right, man. Well, again, now you're really off the hook. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon, James.
You will. Bye.
Bye. Welcome back to Beyond the Fourth Wall. We had an interview earlier today with James Black, and now I'm here with Brooke Wilson. Welcome, Brooke.
Hi, thanks.
So I was thinking about how I first met you, and I can't remember, but what I do know is that I've seen you do about, I don't know, half a dozen big, funny roles in musicals and comedies. And now you're on stage at Fourth Wall in this play, Gloria, by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins. And that does not describe your performance in this play.
No, it's quite different. I think I first met you doing a funny thing that happened on the way to the Forum at the Alley in 2004, I think.
Well, there you have it.
So it was a funny musical.
Yeah, we were both playing supporting ass clown roles.
Yes,
right?
we were. Yes, we were.
Yes, yes, that is the first time we worked together, and then I know we've worked together several times, and I've seen a lot of your work. But you're known for being you're a great singer, and a really good dancer, and so you do a lot of musicals, and I'm just so glad that you're here doing this play with us, because you're giving this layered, very human performance in two roles, and it's just marvelous to behold. I know you've done work like this before, but I don't think this is what most audiences have seen you do. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong at all, and I thank you. Those are very kind words. But no, it's fun to get to kind of dig into this kind of more subtle and juicier kind of role instead of, dancing and singing, which I love so much too. But yeah, it's been wonderful to get to dig into that side too.
When I was talking with James, I said, how did you go about choosing these actors? And he said, well, the first thing I do when I direct is I think of people I know, because I want to be around people that I know first and foremost can do a great job. And I will tell you, when I talked to him, the first thing he said was, I want Brooke Wilson in this role. I think there's an actor in her that not a lot of people have seen, and I think this is the perfect part for her. You were
Wow.
the first actor he mentioned.
That's amazing. That makes me feel so good. Yeah. And I appreciate that, because once it's and it's not just in Houston, it's everywhere, right? I think a lot of times people think you can, if you're a singer, you're a singer. If you're a dancer, like they kind of pigeonhole you a little bit, and without realizing that hopefully in order to be successful in all three mediums, you can do all three mediums, and that doesn't always necessarily get the credit sometimes that we work so hard to get. So I'm so appreciative of this opportunity from you and Kim and from James, that it's like, not just saying, oh, she's just a, musical theater comedian, which of course, again, I love so much, but it has been so wonderful to kind of get to play the more subtle, almost kind of villain, which I don't really get to play a lot. Yeah. And I'm not even talking about Act 1. It's Act 2 that I find now that the audiences have come, it's like, oh, these reactions are from my Act 2. I think they hate her more than the others.
Yeah, but not at first. I mean, we
no.
At first we think, we don't want to say too much about what
I know.
happened.
I'm trying to be very very vague about it, but it's been a beautiful experience overall. So,
Brooke, I like to ask people, and I've actually forgotten the answer to this question. What training did you do as an actor when you were a youngster, and you may still be training? I don't know.
I actually, this might not be the most popular answer. I actually don't have a lot of training formally. I have a degree in psychology, and I'm a dance teacher now. So I was a Kilgore Rangerette for 2 years. So I danced in college, and then I went because I didn't think you could make a living being an actor. So I got a psychology degree, and now I've never used my psychology degree. I've only really made money as an actor and as a dance teacher. So I guess joke's on me, but I guess if I'm being very honest, I haven't really had much formal training. So
joke's on me, because I assumed that you went to college or grad school for acting. I just didn't. I never asked you that question before, I guess, or I forgot.
Yeah. That's all right.
That's unusual. It really is. No, to have your set of skills and not have studied it is really unusual. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, because I believe in training, and so usually when someone doesn't have any training, something shows, and that is unusual because you don't know it. You're
Oh,
seeing
wow.
you can do it all.
Thow
did you break into the biz?
I mean, I was, as a kid, I did plays and stuff in high school, and I've just always been, I was a singer when I was, as young as I can remember, the age old story of singing in church and all of that stuff. And so my brother was in theater. He's older than me, so I wanted to do everything my brother did. And so I just, would do like a summer show when I was 5 or something silly like that. And then I thankfully went to a high school that appreciated fine arts. And so it was a public school in a suburb south of here. But and so I just kind of like, it was something that they appreciated there a whole lot. And I was able to do it throughout school. But then, like I said, once I got my dance team director when I was in high school, encouraged me to go be a dancer in college and all of that. But it was just kind of, I don't know. I guess I've always kind of done it as a hobby when I was growing up and coming into my youth. But it's always just been such a big part of my spare time. Anytime I had to spare, I would be in the theater if I could when I was a kid.
I went to public school in Des Moines, Iowa, and I had a wonderful high school theater teacher, Mr. Anderson. And he really inspired a whole group of people who've gone on to be in the business, but also appreciate the business. If some of us who aren't in the business, and those people are so appreciated. I'm really grateful to that guy and to whoever your teacher was. So did you do plays in college?
No, I didn't. So my high school theater teacher was 𝗕𝗲𝗆. I think she's actually still at Friendswood. I went to Friendswood High School. My choir director was Jane Ann-Quevedo, and then my dance teacher was Susan Clark. And so they were just, I did musicals. Like I wanted to be the lead in the musical. Like that was my goal. So they were like, well, if she wants to be in the musicals, then she needs to know how to dance. And I did theater in junior high with Miss Powdrell. And so she's known me for all, but a lot of the people I acted with in high school have gone to LA and done some cool things too, and New York and things like that. But no, once I got to college, honestly, I was a ranger, like I said, for 2 years, and that was all dancing. And I can remember having the thought of like, okay, well, at some point I'm going to have to like buckle down and, figure out how I'm going to make money after this. Again, just not really, because I wasn't in the, and getting a BFA or any kind of acting training. So I didn't know that this was something you could even really make a living at. So I just kind of found my way. I worked for an oil trading firm right out of school in downtown Houston. And like, I just kind of eventually would like audition for things and then get in those and then ask actors in there.
You figured out where the auditions were, you auditioned and you started working.
Yeah. So I just kind of figured it out.
I mean, and you've worked at Theater Under the Stars, the Alley, Stages, Fourth Wall, probably a bunch of other theaters and that I'm forgetting. And
that was kind of I just kind of found my way in.
That's really, it's impressive and unusual. Like I said, good for you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to know, let's see. I would like to also know, do you have, we can edit this out if we need to. Do you have work coming up?
I don't. I mean, I know. Because I have my teaching job is obviously we have summers off, but no, I don't. I don't have anything coming up. So.
Hey, well, Houston, Brooke's available.
Give me a call, summer.
That's what you do on stage in a lot of plays, what you just did.
Yeah, ass clowning around.
I hope if you're a theater maker and you watch this whatever this is beyond the fourth wall, that you'll come see Brooke and Gloria, because she's doing work that is, like I said before, it's nuanced and human and not in any way ass clown musical theater work.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love it. Well, is there anything that you wanted to talk about tonight, or you thought I was going to ask that you would like to get out there?
No, I mean, I just think now that we've had a few audience audiences. It's just been really wonderful to see how much the audiences are like really listening to like every word in this play, and how smartly written this play is. And the comedy is just on the page. We're not having to, well, I actually don't, I don't really have many comedic things, but there are some very funny things that are happening, and it's just in the language. I mean, it's such a beautifully written play. And everyone in the cast is just such a beautiful human. I've told everyone like backstage, like it's just, we're having just such a positive and wonderful time just being on stage with each other as an ensemble, that I'm so impressed with everyone's performances and how everyone is just so grounded. And so, like you keep saying, just these human stories that, and then all of a sudden when these things kind of come out of nowhere that we're not expecting necessarily as an audience, how it just rocks you. But it is so indicative of how we're living these days that it's so fun to I don't come on very often in Act One, but so I'm sitting off stage because I have a lot of off stage lines too. So I get to really listen to how the audience is interpreting what they're saying and their performances. So it's really fun to hear their reactions to it, and then see some of their reactions to what's happening. So
I can agree more. I am such a fan of this play, and of course I picked it. Kim and I picked it, so obviously we're fans of
right.
it. Yeah, just on the page, it was so surprising and unusual, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And as James said, it feels like a kind of a conventional 2-act play when you first encounter it, but it really doesn't act that way. And he's already talked about that.
Right.
But
Right.
you're right. And I'm sure, I've seen it in front of a couple of audiences. You've done it more times. So I'm sure that their reactions are quite varied. It's impossible as an audience member to get ahead of this play.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's like right when you think it's going somewhere, it turns on its heels and goes another direction.
Yeah.
And I was telling the cast backstage, like I was lucky enough to get to do the 𝗕𝗲𝗆 a few years ago, and then to do one of the plays I read as a main stage production called The Carpenter by Rob Askins. And so I remember when we read as a cast, when the play turns on its heels, and James was also the director of that workshop. And then Rob was in the room, and James and Rob knew what was happening, but as a cast, we didn't. So we turned the page and read what happened and just, oh my gosh. And so I had the same reaction when I read this script, like, wait, what just happened? So again, I don't want to give too much away to our patrons, but it's like, these are like the things that all of a sudden you're comfortable and you're laughing, and then what? Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
How wonderful for you to get to work on a new play by Robert Askins, who wrote, I like The Carpenter very much, but Hand to God.
Oh, Hand to God. Yeah.
A play that made him kind of a star. I got to see the original production in New York, and then I also got to see the very good production at the Alley.
Yes. Yeah.
And both productions were fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
And that play
So
is
good.
so funny and well crafted, and then because of the 𝗕𝗨𝗆 and Liz Frankel's work, and there you are getting to work with that guy. Pretty great.
It was so awesome. It was so awesome. He was so great to work with, and not too precious with his words. He would kind of see what we were also as actors bringing into the room, and see as, sometimes a playwright can get a little territorial and precious over their words, which I understand as, a creative person. But Rob wasn't like that. He just was like, okay, yeah, whatever idea was the best in the room is the idea that he would latch onto. So it was one of my highlights of my career has been that experience, from all new to main stage. So
it's kind of neat when that Houston, Robert Askins grew up in, outside of Houston,
mm-hmm.
As did Bruce Norris, the author of 𝗪𝗏 Park, a bunch of other plays. And I had the experience of being in a play by Bruce Norris that he actually came to see at 𝗪𝗏 Park at the Alley. And he did this wonderful thing. He came without telling anybody he was coming. And then, because he liked the production, wrote us, all notes and talking about, how it was great for him to be back in Houston at the Alley, where he'd seen plays as a kid, and then and then liked our work, and it's a great experience.
Yeah, it really is. And just that collaboration, that's my favorite part of just in general in the rehearsal room and everything, but just when there's a play that starts from the ground up, essentially, just that the collaborative feel in the room when the egos are gone and everybody's just there to make the best art they can. That's just like, there's not much better than that, I think.
Well, those experiences all have one thing in common, which is that James Black directed them. That collaborative.
True. So
Gloria,
true. And we were all sad because we're like, rehearsal's done. We don't get to see James. He's really a guy.
He's a guy who understands collaboration, and he understands keeping the morale in the room high and the room safe so that you can actually take a risk. And that,
oh my God.
Yeah, as you know, that isn't always true.
No. And he can say 2-3 words of direction and change the entire course without it being belittling. It's like you're saying, it's safe, it's encouraging, it allows you as the actor to find it on your own instead of being forced to do it. So it is. And then the choices are they're human choices, as you keep saying. They're these grounded choices. So it's just he's invaluable.
Those of us who direct plays could learn a lot from what you just said. Note to self. 3 words. He's got a gift. Yeah. 3 words at the right time are probably better than
do not suck. Those are also 3
Oh,
words.
Brooke. Well, hey, I thank you so much. We have Tadrian White, your castmate,
and classmate. We're on the freshman class of Fourth Wall. A lot of us, it's our debut. So
I'm going to bring him in, and you guys can say hi.
Okay.
And then you can go. Thank you so much for talking with us. And
absolutely.
And for your just excellent performance in Gloria. Tadrian, I barely know you, and I'm really looking forward to this next 15 minutes or so because we haven't had a chance to sit down and grab a lunch or something, which we're going to do at some point. I'm going to make
for sure. I would love that.
So you're giving this wonderful performance in Gloria right now. You're playing 3 different characters. Do you want to tell anybody who's watching this who you play, or their names, or maybe a little bit about who they are?
Yeah, sure. So I play 3 characters in the show. I start the show off as Miles, and then I transition into Shawn, and then I transition into Rashaad. And these are 3 very different young men who, go through very different experiences in the show. I call them my 3 pillars.
So the first guy is he's a Harvard student who's what's he doing at the magazine where the first act is set?
So Miles is a Harvard-driven young man, and he's at this publishing company kind of by chance, really. His professor sort of gathered him in, sort of like told him this, like, we're not to like spoil the show or anything, but like to just basically told Miles about this publishing company and, tried to get him to come work for them, and like made it interesting and like made him think, oh, maybe I have a future in writing or maybe not. But he goes for it because, Miles is he's a smart guy, and he wants to be a part of a work environment that's very driven and fast-paced and productive. And
a lot of those things turn out to sort of not be true. You're in your last phase of your internship, and things gone as well as you thought they would, maybe.
Yeah, he comes to find out it's the complete opposite of what he was expecting, and it's disappointing for him, and it makes him really rethink his entire life, really. And
I'm interested, and I hope this is an okay way to talk about this, but this play is written by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins, who is a rather young Black American man, and not all of his plays, but many of his plays deal pretty directly with race in America. This play maybe doesn't seem to, but kind of does, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely there. It's not very I don't know, like this isn't a race play or anything. It's not like the issue of about race or any particular issues about race is present in this show, but it is still very like subliminal in a way.
I think that's a perfect word for it. It's subliminal.
Yeah.
The actions that the other characters ask your character to do in the first act, for instance, are
Mhm.
and you're the only Black man on stage in that, well,
Mhm.
mini scene. But it is so subtle and subliminal, and I think it's actually really masterful the way he's
Yeah,
done that.
yeah, I agree, and it's it's a solid representation of what happens in real life. So
Yes,
it's
unfortunately, I think you're absolutely right about that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for letting us talk a little bit about that. I think it's
Oh, yeah, of course.
important. Yeah, I like the way Mr. Jacobs-Jenkins. I don't know whether he says Mr. Jacobs-Jenkins or Mr. Jenkins, but
Jacobs-Jenkins.
I think it's Jacobs-Jenkins with a hyphen. I like the way he writes very, very much about race in all of his plays, and I just wanted to highlight that he doesn't skip this one.
Yeah, this is the first of I've heard of Branden Jacobs-Jenkins, this show, Gloria, and I've heard now that I've done this show from word of mouth, like all of his other shows are apparently amazing, and it makes me want to check them out.
Well, I hope you do, and I hope you maybe get to be in some of them, because I think a lot of them should be done in Houston. I'm not quite sure why. We are actually the first theater in Houston to get one of his shows on stage. Another theater, Rec Room, had another play of his on their docket, but it got creamed by COVID. So, but he's been around and had a high profile for 10 years at least, and so I'm sorry that it's taken this long, even for us to get this play on. We tried to get the rights to this play 3 or 4 years ago, and
oh wow, really?
Kind of an amazing story how we got the rights, but we won't tell that.
Yeah,
we talk about Tadrian. Tadrian, tell us. I actually have a reason for asking this. Tell us where you went to high school.
I went to 𝗕𝗍𝗄𝐴ny High School, Andy 𝗕𝗍𝗄𝐴ny High School. It's in Spring ISD on the north side of Houston, Texas.
Great. And did you do theater there?
I did. I was I was actually the president of my theater department at 𝗕𝗍𝗄𝐴ny for like my junior year until my senior year, actually. Yeah.
That's great. Tell us who your most influential teacher there was.
Oh,
I was thinking it would be your theater teacher.
Of course, it definitely is. It's hard to say which one in particular because I had 3 different theater teachers.
I'd like to hear their names because I love these people. They begin careers.
They do, yeah. Okay, so there was Miss Richardson, Jennifer Richardson, and then there's Catherine O'Brien, Miss O'Brien, and then Jessica Swafford, Miss Swafford. Shout out to them. I don't know if they'll ever see this, but
absolutely shout out to them. And
yeah, them. They were like my high school theater days. those were the beginning days for me of being an actor and like doing this, and this is what I've always wanted to do. So it's like having these women who were really talented in this field. It was good being under their wing in a way, and like being directed by them in the shows that we've got to do, especially in a in a school that's not very supportive of the arts or theater department in particular. But yeah, yeah.
Brooke
Shout out
and
to
I,
them.
when Brooke and I were talking, we both went to public schools, but they were very supportive of the arts, and so I'm sorry that you had to fight that fight. Yikes.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It was an experience, and it's only it's part of the journey, and the journey is fun.
Well, what other theaters or theater companies have you done things? I know you're new to the business, but tell us what you've done before this play at Fourth Wall in Houston or anywhere else.
Yeah, so I've done a couple of shows at Midtown Arts Center. It's mainly under Vincent Victoria. I've done like maybe like 3 shows there, or 4 maybe. It's been a couple years now, but I've been there a few times, and I've been to Pearl Theater as well. I've performed there. I performed at Main Street Theater, Lone Star North Harris College Theater. Yeah, it's really just scattered all over.
You've been around a bit, and you were recommended to us by our friend Ulrich Davis. How do you know Ulrich Davis?
Yes, Ulrich. Ulrich, we go way back. He's like, I call him he's like my friend agent, because he's been keeping me like booked for the past almost 4 years now, 5 years now, almost. So, yeah, he's like my brother, friend. I don't even recall how we met. I think he's seen me in a show and like saw that I was like dancing in the background of Hairspray or something, and then he wanted me to be a part of one of his shows, and yeah, we ended up becoming friends.
Was that a 𝗕𝗃𝗃 collective show?
Hairspray, no, that was actually at Lone Star North Harris.
Oh, no, but I meant, did he have you be part of his work at 𝗕𝗃𝗃?
Yes. So we did. I did one show with them, Black Nativity, in 2019, I believe. Yeah, and that was a great experience.
Cool.
It was yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, when he recommended you, I think we were talking on the phone, and he said, this guy has got it. He's got the it factor. And, I think he's right. You know what I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Something that can be taught. It's like when you walk on stage, people want to look at you, and you're not doing anything. You're just who you are, and people go, "Whoa, oh yeah." That's what that is. And he said that about you, so you should know
that. We talk often, and yeah, it's great to have someone like him in my corner. So yeah, I appreciate that.
So we're doing this play that has it, as we talked about before, it's hard. You can't get ahead of this play. The play continues to surprise by where it goes. How have you what's it been like in front of audiences? Has it surprised you in front of audiences?
Okay, so it's been like it's been really interesting, really. I love the reactions, because it's like you said, the show, it starts off one way, like it's this sort of not happy go lucky, but like a a good feeling office comedy, and then out of nowhere things just go completely left. And we've heard like some gasps and some like people who've watched from like behind the scenes or like backstage. They've said that they've seen people like covering their mouths and things of that nature. And so yeah, it's been it's been a cool, I find it cool because it's what I've been waiting for, because in rehearsals it's been, we as the actors working on it, it's like, wow, what are people gonna think about this? And like, are they gonna be are they gonna come back for act 2, or is it gonna be is it gonna be the empty house?
I mean, it's
But
true of every play, right? We're rehearsing, we go, oh, are they going to laugh at the jokes? Are they going to get this part? You know, are we being clear enough on this so that they keep being intrigued? I mean, all plays obviously want to keep the audience intrigued, but not all plays do it as well as this play. And I wouldn't, there's some stuff that is surprising, but there's, or maybe even you might even say shocking, but that's not, to me, the play then it doesn't go where I would think it would go after that in act 2, or even in there's a scene change in act 2. In the third scene is like, well, what's happening now? When I see it, I'm like, it's so wild.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
It really pulls you on a journey, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Tadrian, is there anything you thought I was going to ask you that I haven't, or that you wanted to say, or?
Honestly, no. I mean, I was honestly, I was a little reluctant of doing this. This is sort of beyond my comfort zone, but I also know that I am an actor, and this is sort of
come on,
part of the game, part of the business. So I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and just going for it and putting myself out there.
Well, thank you for doing that. When you go on late night TV later on in your career, you're gonna have to get used to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I thought of that when you.
I wish that for you. I wish that for you. I hope you can make an Oscar acceptance speech someday, or go talk to Jimmy Kimmel or any of the Jimmys or whoever it is by that time.
Okay. Right. I appreciate that.
Tadrian White, thank you so much for doing this with us, and also for your excellent work and your excellent acting in Gloria.
Thank you so much, Philip. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Tickets are available on our website. I'm sure there's a link somewhere around here that you can click on for tickets, and we hope to see you at the theater.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to learn more about Fourth Wall, to purchase tickets, or to make a tax-deductible donation.